lamb. All right, I want you to listen. Here we go. This is called the crippled lamb. Once upon a time in a sunny valley, there lived a little lamb named Joshua. He was white with black spots, black feet, and sad eyes. Josh felt sad when he saw the other lambs with snow white wool and no spots. He felt sad when he saw the other sheep with their moms and dads because he didn't have a mom or dad. But he felt saddest when he saw the other lambs running and jumping because he couldn't. Josh had been born with one leg that didn't work right. He was crippled. He always limped when he walked, okay? And they said, you got to show the picture, okay? There, everybody see it? There you go, okay. That's why he always watched while the other lambs ran and played. Josh felt sad and alone, except when Abigail was around. Abigail was Josh's best friend. She didn't look like a friend for a lamb. She was an old cow. She was brown with white blotches that looked like rain puddles on a path. Her belly was as round as a barrel, and her voice was always kind and friendly. Some of Josh's favorite hours were spent with Abigail. There she is, see? The cow, see Abigail? See, there she is, okay. I'll let you take the book. Y'all can look at it later, okay? I may get to see it, all right? They loved to pretend they were on adventures in distant lands. Josh liked to listen to Abigail tell stories about the stars. They would spend hours on the hill looking into the valley. They were good friends. But even with a friend like Abigail, Josh still got sad. See, it made him sad to be the only lamb who could not run and jump and play in the grass. That's when Abigail would turn to him and say, don't be sad, little Joshua. God has a special place for those who feel left out. Oh, I'll show you the picture. There you go. See it? Not a lot on this picture, okay? Okay, I'll show you later. Josh wanted to believe her, but it was hard. Some days he just felt alone. He really felt alone the day the shepherds decided to take the lamb to the next valley where there was more grass. The sheep had been in this valley so long the ground was nearly bare. All the sheep were excited when the shepherd told them they were going to a new meadow. As they prepared to leave, Josh followed over and took his place on the edge of the group. But the others started laughing at him. You're too slow to go all the way to the next valley. Go back, you slowpoke. We'll never get there if we have to wait on you. Go back, Joshua. That's when Josh looked up and saw the shepherd standing in front of him. They are right, my little Joshua. You better go back. The trip is too long for you. Go and spend the night in the stable. Josh looked at the man for a long time. Then he turned slowly and began limping away. There he is, see? There's Joshua, see? All right. All right, I'll show it to you later. When Josh got to the top of the hill, he looked down and saw all the other sheep heading toward the green grass. Never before had he felt so left out. A big tear slipped out of his eye, rolled down his nose, and fell on a rock. Just then he heard Abigail behind him, and Abigail said what she always said when Josh felt sad. Don't be sad, little Joshua. God has a special place for you, for those who feel left out. Slowly the two friends turned and walked to the stable together. By the time they got to the little barn, the sun was setting like a big orange ball. Josh and Abigail went inside and began to eat some of the hay out of the feed box. They were very hungry and the hay tasted good. For a little while, Joshua forgot that he had been left behind. Go to sleep, little friend, Abigail said after they finished eating. You've had a hard day. Josh was tired, so he lay down in the corner of some straw and he closed his eyes. He felt Abigail lie down beside him, and he was glad to have Abigail as a friend. Now, soon Josh was asleep. At first, he slept soundly, curled up against Abigail's back. In his sleep, he dreamed. He dreamed of running and jumping just like the other sheep. Suddenly, a strange noise woke him up. I wonder what it is. Abigail, he whispered. Wake up, I'm scared. Abigail lifted her big head and looked around. The stable was dark, except for a small lamp hanging on the wall. Somebody is here, Josh whispered. They looked across the dimly lighted stable. There, lying on some fresh hay in the feed box, was a baby. The A young woman was resting on a big pile of hay beside the feed box. Joshua looked at Abigail, thinking his friend could tell him what was going on, but Abigail was just as surprised as Josh. Look, see? See the baby? There it is. Yes, okay. Let's finish, okay? Josh looked again at the woman and child, then limped across the stable. He stopped next to the mother and looked into the baby's face. The baby was crying. He was cold. The woman picked up the baby and put him on the hay next to her. Josh looked around the stable for something to keep the baby warm. Usually there were blankets, but not tonight. The shepherds had taken them on their trip across the valley, so there were no blankets. Then Josh remembered his own soft, warm wool. So he walked over and curled up close to the baby. "Thank you, little lamb," the baby's mother said softly. Soon the little child stopped crying and went back to sleep. At this time, a man entered the stable carrying some rags. "I'm sorry, Mary," he said. "This is all I could find." "It's okay," she answered. "This little lamb has kept the new king warm." "A king?" Joshua looked at the baby and wondered who he might be. "His name is Jesus," Mary said. And if she knew Joshua's question, God's son. He came from heaven to teach us about God. Who was the baby, boys and girls? It was Jesus. Let's see what happens. Just then, another noise at the door. It was the shepherds, the ones who had left Joshua behind. Their eyes were big and they were excited. "We saw a bright light and heard the angels," they began to say. Then as they saw Joshua next to the baby, "Joshua, do you know who this baby is?" He does now. It was the young mother who was speaking. She looked at Joshua and smiled. "God has heard your prayers, little lamb. This little baby lamb is the answer." See, the shepherds had gathered. Look. Wow. Joshua looked down at the baby. Somehow he knew this was a special child and a special moment. He also understood why he had been born with a crippled leg. See? He had been born with a crippled leg. Listen, boys and girls, had he been like the other sheep, he would have been in the valley. But since he was different, he was in the stable. Isn't that cool? Among the first to welcome Jesus into the world. You see, he turned and walked back to Abigail, took his place beside his friend. "You were right," he told her. "God does have a special place for me." Isn't that great? You see, boys and girls, if he'd have been a regular lamb and had been not special, he would have been out on the field. He wouldn't have been there to keep baby Jesus warm. Isn't that good? Let me tell you what, boys and girls. Every one of you are very special to God. No matter who you are, no matter what you have, no matter who you are, you're very special to God, just like little Joshua. You see, he got to be there to see the baby. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for all these boys and girls. God, what an awesome story.